Okay, everyone. As I've just said, good morning. Nice to have you all here today. Just before we start, I'm going to read the code of conduct out to you. So NASUWT is committed to ensuring that all members, representatives, staff, visitors, contractors and other third parties behave in a courteous manner at all times when engaged in work for and on behalf of the union. Aggressive, offensive, intimidatory or unacceptable behaviour will not be tolerated. NASUWT has zero tolerance for any type of harassment. This supports the commitment set out in NASUWT's rules to promote equality and inclusion for all and to eliminate all forms of harassment, including sexual harassment, prejudice and unfair discrimination. It is crucial that everyone can participate in NASUWT activities in an inclusive, respectful and safe environment. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. If you have any questions, could you please put them in the Q&A box, not the chat box. We won't be monitoring the chat box for questions. So if you put something in there, unfortunately, it's going to be missed. So in the Q&A box, please, if you've got any questions. So before we start this first session, which is an NASUWT Equalities Priorities update, which is going to be given to you by Jennifer Moses, who is our National Official for Equality and Training, we've got a short video for you from Kat Downs, who is the Vice Chair of the Disabled Teachers Advisory Committee. So I'm going to ask Heidi if she can play that. Heidi, we can't hear the sound.
An issue that not only impacts the families we work with, but your disabled and neurodivergent colleagues who work in the profession as well. It could also affect any number of you in the future. We need your support to be able to campaign against the issues that we are facing. The government announcement in March that they would be reforming PIP along with the welfare system was met with significant concern from many disabled and neurodivergent people. At both the NASUWT Annual Conference and the TUC Disabled Workers Conference, emergency motions were passed around the significant issues that this reform is likely to cause. So here is what you need to know about why we are concerned about the PIP changes. Number one, the disability price tag. PIP is not an out of work benefit and it's not means tested. The reason for this is that being disabled or neurodivergent comes with a significant cost which is not met by other parts of the care system. Just because someone is a teacher doesn't mean they don't have significant care needs outside of school. Many of our disabled teachers, particularly our supply teachers, will rely on PIP and other elements of the welfare system to make ends meet. Scope research shows that the disability price tag in 2022 and 2023 was on average £1,010 a month extra for a disabled household to have the same standard of living as a non-disabled person. Research also shows that after housing costs, the average percentage of income spent on disability costs was 67%. Even the highest levels of PIP comes nowhere near this amount at £737 per month. We also know there is both a significant disability pay and promotion gap within teaching. This demonstrates why even working people will be affected by the cuts to PIP and other welfare reforms. It risks large numbers of people being pushed into poverty. There is a misconception that we get given all our mobility aids and other aids for free, but this is really not the case. The average wheelchair suitable for work is nearly £3,000 if it's an electric wheelchair, and that is not suppliable quite often on the NHS. Number two, a lack of proper equality impact assessment and consultation. The numbers of people who would be affected by the changes is hugely underestimated by the government. Stephen Timms, Minister for Disability and Social Security, has stated that they will put in more measures to protect existing claimants, but has yet to outline measures that would significantly protect disabled claimants. However, the government continues to refuse to release or carry out a full impact equality assessment. A recent Freedom of Information request suggests that 87% of those currently awarded standard care on PIP and 13% of those on enhanced care for PIP would not meet the new 4-point rule. This is just short of 3 million people. There has also been an issue with parts of the face-to-face elements of the consultation. There have been many verified reports of disabled people's organisations being excluded from meeting with MPs and struggling to get access to the disability roundtables. So there is a lack of transparency to ensure disabled voices are heard. Once again, we don't have an equal voice at the table. Number three, it is fueling rising ableist debate. PIP itself is a dehumanising process. It's unpleasant at all application stages and assessments can be brutal. It is not an easy process that the government would make people think. But the rhetoric that is being spoken about disabled and neurodivergent people is increasing the ableism our teachers are facing on a daily basis, with reports of some already being called benefits gougers or cheating the system by pupils. This biggest impact is on our neurodivergent members, with the constant myth of overdiagnosis of ADHD and autism being used to fuel ableist rhetoric and discrimination. This will also impact our SEND students in schools and colleges we teach. Many neurodivergent teachers wait years for a diagnosis, including up to 7 years for a diagnosis of ADHD. Assessments are grueling. For autism, this usually means anywhere from 3 to 6 hours of assessment and at least 2 psychologists. It's not easy to get a diagnosis, and rising numbers of those being diagnosed is due to better access to diagnosis for women and girls in a process that has excluded them for years. This is evidenced by research. The government is choosing to ignore this and propagate mistruths. Number 4, no real attempt to improve conditions for working disabled and neurodivergent people. The government's aim is to encourage more people into work. However, they completely fail to address the issues that disabled and neurodivergent people face. Our disabled and neurodivergent teachers already face long waiting lists for support for access to work, sometimes up to 12 months. But the government wants to trim down the support that is provided by access to work, particularly by support workers, and there are concerns there will be a second wave of cuts to access to work. In addition to this, public transport is still largely inaccessible to many disabled people, with over 40% of the rail network failing to provide step-free access to platforms across the country. In addition to this, teachers particularly struggle to be able to access NHS healthcare due to the inflexibility of timings of appointments, which often means choosing between their health and their job. So what can we do? Firstly, the biggest step is to email your MP. Keep up the pressure on our government, either as an individual, and both DPAC and Scope have sample letters, or you can email them as an association. You can use the NASUWT statement on our website and send that to your MP. Make our members aware by putting our statement on your association website or social media. Invite a speaker to your local association meeting. There are many of us who will come and speak if you invite us. Secondly, contribute to the online consultation, which closes on the 30th of June. And if you are going to TUC Congress in September, please consider supporting the motion there on PIP. Lastly, consider joining local events run by DPAC or other similar organisations. Take your banner and show your support and solidarity.
Okay, and we'll send our thanks to Kat for that. Very important information for you to have there. Okay, so I'm going to introduce Jennifer Moses. Jennifer is our national official for the NASUWT for Equality and Training. Jennifer, are you around? Bear with us, please. I'm sure she's trying to get in. Hi, Jennifer.
Good morning. I'm sorry about that. I'd forgotten how to enter through the door with this technology, so my apologies. Thanks, Claire. Yeah, it's and apologies for the background noise. I'm in a bit of a noisy room. But it's quite timely to hear that very useful and timely presentation from Kat, because the Equal Opportunities Committee has prioritised its work on disability equality over the past few months and ongoing, particularly given the concerns about welfare reform and the impact on disabled workers. So it's really pleasing that the resolution from the recent TUC Disabled Workers Conference is focusing on welfare reform and particularly on how it will impact on disabled workers. So thank you, Kat, for that. And she gave us some really good things for us to progress, particularly how it will be discussed at Congress in amongst other affiliates TUC, but also what we can do as a union to raise awareness around disability inequalities and government reforms that impact disproportionately on disabled workers. So it is an ongoing piece of work. And last weekend, we had our Disabled Members Conference. Some of you may have been there. Very good, well attended. Well over 100 of our members attended and played a full and productive part. There were some challenging conversations, And we don't shy away from those challenging conversations. And Claire, who led us a really good session with our Disabled Members Advisory Committee about some of those challenges and what we can do as a union going forward to better support our disabled members and ensure that everything we do is under the context and is underpinned by the social model of disability. So that is removing barriers that get in the way of disabled members fully accessing all areas of the union. I didn't introduce myself properly when I started. Sorry, I just ran in just in case I'm not aware of who I am. So I'm Jennifer Moses and I'm the National Official for Equality and Training. And I support the work of the Equal Opportunities Committee that is responsible for putting on these training days for you all. So there are a few things that I'd like to focus on just to update you on pieces of work that the Equal Opportunities Committee are focusing on. And I want to start with sexual harassment. It is an ongoing piece of work. I mean, since 2015, 2016. I'm pleased to say that we now have new policy, a robust policy, and we also have an action plan that we're working our way through. Our action plan, we actually had it in place before the TUC had their action plan. But what we do, we measure our progress against what the TUC and other affiliates are doing. And one of the things that we always have to ask ourselves, why is this issue of sexual harassment still a priority for the union? We know from the work that we do with our salaries team and the salaries committee that there is still remains a persistent gender pay gap within the United Kingdom. As of last year, that was 14.3%. So women still fare less in terms of pay and as well as their positions in the workplace. Sexual harassment, violence against women is a growing problem and it's actually facing an epidemic, according to the Office of National Statistics. And that showed that nearly 3/4 of the UK population had experienced some form of sexual harassment in their lifetime, and that came from the National Crime Survey. So sexual harassment is remaining on the agenda of the NASUWT, and we make no apology for doing that. And one of the other things that we've done is ensure that whilst we shine the light on our own practices, that anyone, whether it's a woman or anyone facing any form of harassment, sexual or otherwise, can report it anonymously or formally should they wish to do so. So there is a helpline and there is a telephone line of an organisation called the Survivors Trust that we have commissioned for members of the union to report sexual harassment or other forms of harassment that may take place within the union. And what I will do, I will ask colleagues to put those details up sometime during the day so you can see how you can access that service. What we've also been doing recently with the Equal Ops Committee, we want to ensure that the work we do is intersectional when we're thinking about sexual harassment, because we do recognise that the experience of Black women, of lesbian, bisexual, trans or intersex women, disabled women, younger or older women are different and play out in different ways. So we know, for example, there are racist elements to sexual harassment, there are ableist elements, there are transphobic, homophobic and ageist elements to sexual harassment. So we want to make sure that all the work that we do takes all of that into consideration. And we're pleased to be leading the way, I think I can say, with the work that the TUC are doing on Black women on sexual harassment. So this emanates from a survey that took place last year and then a report that was released at the beginning of this year from the TUC about Black women's experience of sexual harassment. And it showed that there were some really concerning elements of racism that intersects with sexual harassment. So the TUC and ourselves have come up with a number of recommendations, which our union has adopted in full and has incorporated it into our work on sexual harassment. So the task group that was set up to look at the work that we do on sexual harassment will be reformed, and we'll look at the intersectional nature of sexual harassment to see what more needs to be done in terms of our policies, our campaigns, how our negotiators bargain for sexual harassment policies in the workplace, and ensure that they have an intersectional nature. We're also reviewing the work that we're doing on anti-Semitism. Those of you who may have been involved last year, we did quite a big piece of work on identifying the extent of anti-Semitism in the workplace as well as in society. Given the ongoing situation in Israel, Gaza, that work was stalled for a few months, but last year the committee decided that it needed to get some information out there and at least have a statement from the union in terms of how its commitment to anti-Semitism. So we undertook a survey of our Jewish members and asked them information about their experience of anti-Semitism in the workplace. It gave us, there was no surprise in terms of the outcome, but what was quite concerning is some of the anecdotes, some of the stories of individuals, of people's experiences of anti-Semitic actions in the workplace and in schools, and the fact that they were going unchallenged, the fact that it was impacting on teaching and learning. So we thought we needed to at least have a definition, a working definition that we can work from. So last July, we had an in-person round-table meeting held here at Rednall, and we invited as many of our Jewish members who were able to attend, and we had a full and frank discussion about anti-Semitism and the extent of it, and how employers are addressing it in the workplace. But more importantly, we were able to come up with a working definition. And I say working because it's not set in stone, and it's one that we intend to review from time to time, of what anti-Semitism is. So if you have a look at the website, you will see that definition is there, and it's pleased that we can do that. So more recently, we were committed at that roundtable, we committed to doing some more work. So between now and autumn, there will be a webinar that will discuss anti-Semitism, what it looks like, how it plays out, and this is direct information from our members, and also more importantly, what employers should be doing and what our reps can do to ensure that anti-Semitic actions are dealt with swiftly. Also, as part of our anti-racism work, I have to say, actually, the work we're doing on anti-Semitism fits right into our anti-racism action plan work, because we do recognise anti-Semitism is a hate crime and is a racist hate crime. So other work that we're doing as part of our anti-racism action plan is reviewing our statement on Islamophobia. So in 2022, we put out a statement on Islamophobia, and also our commitment to tackling it. So that statement came from information, casework, what was happening in schools and in society that our predominantly Muslim members were telling us where they were facing. And we launched it during Islamophobia Awareness Month in November 2022. But the Equalities Committee said, 3 years on, we now need to review it. So we now have a current plan of action to again engage with those self-identified Muslim members that we know of from our membership system, and probably have, well, not probably, we will be having a similar roundtable event as we did with our Jewish members to look at the extent of Islamophobia and to see whether our statement needs to be updated and reviewed. So if you fit into that category, look out for some information and an invitation to take part in the survey, but also in a roundtable in the coming autumn term. And also, before I end, I cannot close without talking about the current situation around gender identities. As you may know, last month, I think it was 2 months ago, there was a court case in Scotland, and there's now a Supreme Court ruling that determines that people who identify as trans basically, as far as we're concerned, are losing their rights. What that court case determined is that women and men have to be identified by their biological sex. There was some interim guidance that came out from the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, which was very concerning, because that interim guidance gave ammunition to some employers to provide knee-jerk policies within organisations, where in some places people who do not pass as either a woman or a man are being asked to provide biological identities in terms of to determine what their biological sex is. And this quite clearly contravenes all of the rights that trans people have, particularly through the Gender Reassignment Act that is still in place. There is a consultation that's out at the moment that closes at the end of June, which this union will be responding to. We have casework and that will feed into that, and we will be pushing back quite strongly to ensure that all of our trans members are protected, as well as women's rights continue to be protected as well, because we do believe that there is no conflict between the two. So that's a really important and timely piece of work. So there's lots on at the moment, and Claire will attest to this, that the committee are looking at. It's quite wide ranging, but I'm proud to say that all of our work is informed by the lived experiences of people who are in those categories. So the work we're doing on women's equality is informed by the Women's Committee. Our LGBTI committee are very active in the work that we're doing on LGBTI equality, and our Black members, again, are very much involved in the work we're doing on anti-racism. So I'm quite pleased to know that much of our work is informed by those lived experiences. So it's a full agenda, and that was just a snapshot, I think you'd agree, Claire, of things that we're doing, and happy to report back on progress of some of those at a later date.
That's brilliant, Jennifer. Thanks for that. And the work that ELC is doing is very wide ranging, as Jennifer has just said. In fact, it was quite funny the other day at National Executive, when I went through, we have to give a report from our standing committees, and I went through the report and just pointed out to National Executive the number of different things that we have to cover in the space of one meeting, because we need to make sure that everybody's represented in the work that we do. So thanks to Jennifer and the team for everything that they do. Sharon put a question in about could Kat's video be shared on NASUWT social media sites, and Steve has answered it for us, saying that, and I just want everybody to be aware that it will be posted on the equality section of the website, and that will be there along with the recordings of all of the other sessions in today's training day. So if you want to go back over anything, if you want to use it with your members, then please do. The videos will be there for each of the sessions at some point later on. Okay, time for a quick comfort break before we start our next workshop at 10 o'clock. So you'll leave this link and rejoin through the link that you've received for the neurodiversity workshop. And thanks again, Jennifer, and we'll see you all in a few minutes.